Stop trying to have faith. Stop trying to believe. Stop repeating affirmations in front of the mirror, while your body trembles in panic on the inside. If you are here, it is because you have already tried everything. You have visualized, you have meditated, you have written letters to the universe. And yet, the second you close your eyes to assume your new reality, a thin, icy, and almost imperceptible voice whispers inside your skull, "This won't work for you." And that voice wins every single time. Dolores Cannon spent 50 years putting thousands of people into deep trance. She was no guru. She was an investigator. And what she discovered, upon accessing the subconscious level of human operation, is something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. Doubt is not a character flaw. It is not a lack of faith. It is not spiritual weakness. Doubt is a biological signal, an electrical vibration triggered by an ancient neural network that is running a program that does not even belong to you. And in the next few minutes, I will show you exactly the neuroenergetic error that is keeping you trapped in the life you say you don't want. I will show you how Dolores Cannon decoded the invisible mechanism behind the law of assumption, and why assuming a new reality is not an exercise in childish imagination. It is identity surgery. Stay until the end, because the last topic contains the only instruction that makes everything else collapse and manifest. Pay very close attention to what I'm going to say now, because this changes everything. That voice that doubts inside you is not yours. It is an echo, a neurological echo of every "you can't," "you don't deserve it." That's not for people like us that entered your brain before the age of 7, when your brain waves were still predominantly in theta, that is, in a state of direct recording into the subconscious. Dolores Cannon described this in an almost clinical way. She said that most people confuse the voice of their conditioning with the voice of their soul. And this confusion is fatal, because the moment you believe that the doubt is you stop fighting against it. You start obeying it. You bow to the voice of your own jailer, thinking you are being realistic. Look at what happens in the body. You decide to assume that you are abundant. You close your eyes, breathe, and for 3 seconds you feel a flicker of peace. Then your nervous system, which has been addicted to scarcity for 40 years, releases cortisol. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, and your mind, trained to interpret physical sensations as truth, concludes immediately. See, I knew it was a lie. It wasn't a lie. It was resistance. It was your biology trying to maintain the homeostasis of suffering, because to the reptilian brain, known suffering is safer than unknown peace. Doubt, therefore, is not spiritual information. It is a symptom of detoxification. When it appears, it is not saying this is false. It is saying this is new. And here is the first turning point. You don't need to eliminate doubt to create your reality. You need to stop identifying with it. Doubt can be present, screaming in the background, and yet you can choose not to be it. You can observe it as you observe the noise of the street. It exists, but it is not you. When this separation happens, something changes in the field. Your nervous system begins, for the first time in decades, to understand that there is an observer above the program, and it is this observer that creates. Now we enter the point that 90% of the people who study this science never truly understand. Assuming is not pretending. Assuming is not forcing yourself to feel joy when your body is in mourning. Assuming is a much more subtle and much more radical operation. Assuming is stopping the demand for external proof to authorize an internal state. Think with me. You wake up every day and open your bank account to decide how to feel. You look at the balance. Look at the message he didn't reply to. Look at the scale. Look at the empty email. And based on these external data points, you assemble your emotional state for the day. That is living from the outside in. That is the neurological definition of servitude. You have outsourced your biology to circumstances that, by definition, are the reflection of the state you already held yesterday. It is a closed loop, and as long as you operate within this loop, nothing changes, because the source of the signal never changes. Assuming the desired reality means reversing the polarity of this operation. It is deciding the state first and letting the circumstances follow, like waves of an ocean that has finally received a new moon. Dolores Cannon spoke about this a lot when she described what she called the higher subconscious. She said there is a layer of consciousness within you that does not operate in linear time. For this layer, the fulfilled desire already exists. It is on another frequency, on another timeline, in another fold of the fabric of reality. Your job is not to manufacture this reality. Your job is to tune into it. And tuning in means feeling how that version of you feels, before any evidence. You must begin to live emotionally from the state of fulfillment, to walk as one who has already arrived walks, to breathe as one who is already at peace breathes, to make decisions from abundance, not from the fear of losing the little that remains. When you do this consistently, your electromagnetic field shifts, and what is outside begins to reorganize itself to reflect the new inside. I know what is happening in your chest right now. You are feeling that strange mixture of hope and tightness, as if one part of you recognizes the truth of what I am saying, but another part, older, deeper, is screaming that this is too soon, that you are not ready yet, that you need more time, more reading, more therapy, more of anything before you can assume the state you deserve. This is exactly the mixed signal that keeps the field paralyzed. You send two contradictory commands to the operating system of reality at the same time, and the system, not knowing which one to follow, returns to you the average of the two, which is your current life. That is why I prepared the Imán da Prosperidade for you. It is not just another law of attraction course. It is a 28-day surgical journey designed to uninstall the identity of scarcity from your nervous system and imprint in a theta state the frequency of real, spiritual, emotional, and financial abundance. Each day works on a different neurological point. Each audio goes straight to the layer where doubt was recorded. The access link, along with the bonus for those who join in the next few hours, is in the first pinned comment right below. Before you continue watching, go there, save it, and comment the phrase, "Eu sou o campo," if you understood that you stopped asking and started assuming. This comment is your first act of identity, returning to the deep mechanism. Here is one of the greatest discoveries that Dolores Cannon brought to light and which connects directly with modern quantum physics. Imagination, against everything you have been taught, is not a space of escapism. It is not fantasy. It is not child's play. Imagination is the womb of reality. Everything that exists in the physical world first passed through a mental image. The chair you are sitting on, the clothes you wear, the roof over your head, all of this was imagined before it was manufactured. And your body, your bank account, your relationship, your health are the exact same principle operating within you, only unconsciously. You are imagining all the time. When you worry, you are imagining the worst-case scenario and living it in high emotional resolution. When you mentally rehearse an argument that hasn't happened yet, you are building its energetic structure. The problem is not that you don't know how to imagine. The problem is that you imagine against yourself all the time and call that rational thinking. When you learn to consciously visualize, with sensory clarity, with embodied emotion, success, love, abundance, health, peace, you stop being a victim of your imagination and become its engineer. And in that moment, your mind stops reacting to reality and begins to program it. The circumstances you see today are merely temporary effects of old images you rehearsed for years without realizing it. Change the images, and the effects have no way of remaining. It is the cleanest physics in the universe, even if most of humanity never learns how to use it. Now let's move to one of the most liberating yet hardest points of this transmission to swallow. The current circumstances of your life do not determine your future. I need to repeat this because your brain will want to discard this sentence in 3 seconds. The current circumstances of your life do not determine your future. They are in truth the printout report of the past. Everything manifested at this very instant, the amount of money in your account, the quality of your sleep, the type of person who shows up for you, is a photograph of who you were on the inside over the last few months, the last few years. It is frozen history. It is archaeology. It is not destiny. And when you confuse archaeology with destiny, you become a prisoner of a past that technically doesn't even exist anymore. Dolores Cannon emphasized that consciousness has infinitely greater creative weight than any apparently negative situation. It doesn't matter if your account is at 0. It doesn't matter if you were betrayed. It doesn't matter if the diagnosis was devastating. It doesn't matter if no one in your family ever earned more than one minimum wage. This information, no matter how solid it may seem, is matter. And matter is the slowest and most malleable effect of consciousness. Everything that is manifested can be unmanifested because the source is more real than the effect. Here is the part that hurts. You are used to looking at the problem and deriving your truth from it. The problem becomes your teacher. The problem becomes your compass. And you begin to build yourself based on what it tells you. You become the person who defines yourself by bankruptcy, by rejection, by illness, by trauma. You glue your identity to the damage. And when you do that, your nervous system begins to defend the damage as if it were your home. This is the reason why so many people sabotage their own success. It is not a lack of deserving. It is unconscious loyalty to familiar ground. To get out of this loop, you need to do something that seems insane to the logical mind. You need to stop treating the circumstance as absolute truth and start treating it as a proposal. The world proposes a reality to you every day. You are not obligated to accept it. You can look at what is there, acknowledge it with honesty, and still say internally, I do not identify with this, I do not consent to this does not define me. And what seemed like a rock begins to dissolve, because you have cut off the energy supply that kept it standing. And it is exactly at this point that many people give up, right where the turning point was beginning. That is why I ask you now, before we continue, do you just want to understand the concept, or do you want to install the neurological coherence that makes the concept turn into reality in your body? If your answer is the latter, go to the first pinned comment now and secure your access to Iman da Prosperidade today. The next few hours will define whether you leave here informed or whether you leave here transformed. Decide quickly. And here we reach the point where almost everyone gives up, and that is why almost no one harvests. Persistence in the new assumption. I need you to understand that assuming a new reality for 3 days and quitting because it hasn't appeared yet is the energetic equivalent of planting a seed, watering it twice and then digging it up on Friday to see if it has germinated. This kills the process. And it kills it not as a punishment. Cosmic. It kills because you have just communicated to your own subconscious that the new reality had no weight, no consistency, was not for real. You taught your nervous system that that version of you that was being born was a weekend prank. And it believed it. Dolores Cannon used to say that persistence is not stubbornness. Persistence is loyalty. It is the ability to keep returning several times a day to the feeling of the desired reality until this feeling stops being a visitor and becomes a resident. And that changes something in the neural architecture. The networks that supported the old identity begin to weaken from disuse. The new networks fueled by your repeated attention thicken, myelinate, gain priority. There is a number that the science of neuroplasticity has been repeating and which fits in an almost mystical way with what Dolores taught. 21 to 90 days of consistent exposure to a new emotional state are enough to rewrite old patterns structurally. Take note, it is not 21 years, it is not a whole lifetime, it is an accessible window. And yet most people don't even reach half of this window because they give up on the 5th day, on the 9th day, on the 12th day. Exactly when the system starts to panic from the uninstallation, what seems like proof that it doesn't work is, in fact, proof that it is working. The chaos before the new order, the turbulence before landing. You need to go through this phase without dramatizing. And the way to go through it is not by gritting your teeth, but by returning to the feeling. Returning, returning, returning. Each time you return to the feeling of the reality already realized, you are casting a vote. Each return is a vote, and the universe counts votes, not wishes. Whoever has more votes deposited in the new state wins the new state. From there, we enter a difference in vibrational quality that separates those who manifest from those who only dream. The difference between hoping that something happens and knowing that it is already happening. It may seem subtle, but it is an abyss. When you hope, you are in lack. When you know, you are in presence. Hope still admits the possibility that the desire might not come. Certainty does not admit it. Certainty has already incorporated the result as a given, and that is why certainty has an electric power that hope will never have. Hope keeps its gaze fixed on the absence. Every hour you are looking to see if it arrived, if it happened, if it changed. And this look is, in itself, a confession that it hasn't arrived yet, hasn't happened yet, hasn't changed yet. You reaffirm the lack 100 times a day without realizing it. Certainty operates in the opposite way. Certainty stops checking. Certainty acts from the already existing data. Have you ever seen anyone waiting for the sun to rise in the east? No one gets anxious to see if it will appear. No one opens the window every 5 minutes. The person simply sleeps peacefully because they know. It is this quality of knowing that you need to cultivate in relation to your desire. It is not arrogance. It is rest. It is the parasympathetic nervous system finally taking command. When this rest enters, something changes in your field. Anxiety abandons the tissue, the chest relaxes. Decisions become cleaner, more aligned, less impulsive. People begin to treat you differently because they read, at an unconscious level, your frequency. And it is in this moment that what seemed distant begins to draw near with naturalness. Not with pyrotechnics, not with a sign from heaven, with naturalness. As if it were always meant to be, because it always was. And now we reach the core of the mechanism. Identity creates reality. Not your affirmations, not your vision boards, not your spreadsheets, your identity. Who you believe you are, at the deepest level, decides what is possible for you, what is permitted, what is comfortable, what is destiny. Your external reality is merely a faithful projection of your internal identity, and that is why people who win the lottery without work on their identity return to poverty in a few years, while people who lose everything but maintain the identity of creators rebuild their wealth in a short time. Identity is the operating system. Circumstances are just the files. You can delete files all day long. As long as the operating system generates the same type of files, you never get anywhere. Dolores Cannon insisted that most people try to change their lives without changing their identity. And that is energetically impossible. It is like trying to drive a car east with the steering wheel locked to the west. You can press the gas pedal as much as you want. The car will pull back toward the direction of the steering wheel. Your steering wheel is your identity. When you begin to identify as someone abundant, loved, valuable, healthy, and confident, your decisions change effortlessly. Your emotions change their baseline. Your expectations change. And since the world is a mirror of expectation, the world begins to redesign itself. This is not a metaphor. This is mechanics. Your perception filters reality. You only see what is compatible with who you believe you are, and you only attract what is compatible with the frequency you sustain. Change the identity, and everything compatible with the old identity begins to disconnect from you. Sometimes with discomfort, sometimes with grief, but always with necessity. Because the new cannot enter while the old occupies the throne. And this is exactly where I need to be brutal with you. You can understand all of this intellectually and still fail to embody it, because understanding is an act of the cortex, and embodying is an act of the whole body. Knowledge alone does not change identity. Identity changes when the nervous system receives a new instruction repeated in a state of receptivity, in a theta state, in a state of cardiac coherence. That is exactly the work that the Imán da Prosperidade does with you over these 28 days. It is not just another video for you to watch. It is a neurological protocol for you to go through. Each audio, each guided session, each visualization was designed to put you in the right state at the right time and to record the new identity in the layer where the old one was recorded. In 4 weeks, the person who comes out on the other side is not an improved version of the one who entered. It is another person, and this other person attracts another reality automatically. Access and the valid condition until the turn of today are in the first pinned comment. If you are reading this, it is because there is still time, but very little time. Comment EU Escolo. A nova identidade as a public commitment to the version of you that has not yet been born, but already exists waiting for you to assume it. And we arrive at the last point, the point that carries all the others, the point where everything is decided. Choosing certainty over doubt is not a romantic gesture. It is a decision you make and renew thousands of times a day, at every internal fork in the road, in every thought that arises, in every sensation that rises through the body. All change begins within consciousness, and consciousness is, first and foremost, a capacity for choice. Doubt will appear. It will appear today, it will appear tomorrow, it will appear 3 months from now, when you are already seeing the first manifestations. Doubt does not disappear because you evolved. It simply loses power because you stop obeying. Every time it knocks on the door and you don't open it, it weakens. Every time it knocks on the door and you open it, listen, and sit down with it for coffee, it grows fat. You are feeding one of the two all the time. There is no neutrality in this equation. When you remain faithful to the desired vision, even in the complete absence of external proof, something strange happens. Time begins to bend in your favor. Synchronicities begin to appear with an almost ridiculous frequency. People you didn't even know enter the scene with the right offer. Doors that seemed locked for years open on their own, and the only rational explanation is that your field has finally aligned with the source. In effect, the internal with the external, the invisible with the visible. It is not magic, it is coherence. It is what Dolores described when she said that the universe does not conspire in favor of those who wish, but in favor of those who decide to be. Now listen very carefully to what I am about to say to close this out, because this is the part no one wants to hear. You can close this video now, and tomorrow morning you will wake up and your body will repeat the same emotional past, the same anxiety when looking at your phone, the same tightness when opening your banking app, the same metaphysical exhaustion of living a life that does not represent you. Or you can, at this very instant, decide that this pattern ends here, that this is the last time you watch something about transformation without transforming yourself, that this is the last time you leave a video informed instead of installed. Biology is waiting for your instruction. The field is waiting for your signature. No one is going to do this for you. No guru, no book, no teacher, not even me. The only thing separating your current life from the life you know is yours is an identity decision that you have the power to make now or postpone for the 1000th time. Comment: I choose certainty. If you understand that doubt has just lost the seat it occupied in your consciousness, this comment is your signature on the new contract. And the first pinned comment is the door for you to make this transition not just in words, but in biology. Decide, because the time of knowing without applying is over.